And we are live. Hey guys, this is Ruben from Dubb's podcast, Connection Loop. And I'm on with Ryan Waters. And Ryan and I just got into kind of an interesting convo to talk about leadership, workplace culture, working from home, being a parent, homeschooling. So there's some really interesting topics that we're going to explore here. Ryan, what has been your experience and your biggest kind of learnings during this time?
Uh, just learning how we can all kind of adapt with one another and our schedules, and just learning how to make it work. Really, it's new for all of us. Some brand new. Me, not so much. Early in my career, I worked from home. I was in sales for quite a number of years. So working from a home office wasn't so new for me. It was kind of you know, kind of an old thing. My wife, not so much, but she kind of got into the flow pretty quick. But with the kids and the virtual learning thing, it's a learning process, right? Just kind of getting into that routine and a schedule when the teachers send everything out, just knowing when to go get it, when to buckle down and get things done. And that's what that's what I typically recommend to everybody who's new to the whole working from home thing. It's so absolutely critically important to find that routine. Getting up every single day at the exact same time. Brushing your teeth at the exact same time, getting the laptop on at the exact same time. So once you get into that routine, now it's become normal,
Mm.
right? Nothing can surprise you anymore after the first few weeks or whatever. You know what to expect, and now you become comfortable with it.
I feel like there's kind of like these two schools of thought. On one side, it's schedule and time block, and then on the other side, it's adapt to whatever's happening in your life. And
Yeah.
to a certain extent, you have to time block and you have to schedule because we're meeting with other people and we have to respect that.
Hmm.
But I still haven't found whatever my method is. I think it's some combination where I will time block and I will have certain things scheduled up. But then sometimes when things happen, I realize that I need to stop trying and I need to
Yeah.
stop trying to work and I need to just disengage, shut the computer off, and hang out with my daughter because she might be sitting on my lap watching a movie right here, and I'll just not be productive because I want to hang out with her.
And that's great. I mean, that's one
Yeah.
of the beautiful things about working from home, and that's why you're seeing so many advocates come out, studies advocating for the work from home environment, because it does lend itself to a more productive, not only environment but overall workforce, because it gives you the opportunity to, okay, I need a timeout. I just need a break. I need to go, play with the dog, go throw the ball, or just, sit down for 10 minutes and catch a quick movie with your kids. And that little piece of relaxation just relaxes your brain, your
Yeah.
body, just gives you that reset that you didn't normally have access to in the cubicle, or the office, whatever the case may be. And it just offers that different workspace that
Yeah.
just relaxes you. You don't have the general pressures that the office really throws at you. And I really do believe in that wholeheartedly.
That is so it's so interesting. I recall in my last corporate environment, working in a building where you have your coworkers and you have your friends and you take your lunch breaks and you go to the coffee shop and those moments of hanging out, having fun, having conversations, those are
Yeah.
healthy. That's what we do, right?
Yeah.
The water cooler talk. I think that when you look at it from at the human level, that we all need that. We need some level of human interaction.
Right.
But when you look at it from a productivity perspective, this is exactly what makes computers and robots so much more efficient than us, that they don't need to take a coffee break.
Right. Right.
And right. And I think what's really interesting though is that we've effectively replaced that type of rapport, that type of banter, that type of conversation with our colleagues in front of the water cooler to
Hmm.
now with family and maybe our
Right.
pets, right? And maybe ourselves, more time
Right.
for ourselves.
Oh,
And
no
I
question.
and I used to think how little time some people probably get to spend, some parents probably get to spend with their kids,
Oh,
you know? And
yeah.
and that problem has effectively solved itself. And the irony, I think, is that according to the stuff that I'm reading and definitely experience, is that productivity is also higher.
Absolutely. I've seen statistics as high as, what was it, like an increase in productivity as high as 47% among this particular tech firm's um, productivity amongst their workforce, because they're now working from home and everything we were just talking about. If you think about it, if you have a commute, I think the average commute time in the country is probably in the neighborhood of 45 minutes. Now you're saving an hour and a half in the car ride to and from. Um, you're just, whatever your routine is, you get to the laptop that much quicker. All that time saved, the money saved on gas and everything else that goes along with your time to and from the office, food, everything that goes into it. It just lends itself to a healthier, more relaxed workforce. Satisfaction is what companies need to strive for amongst their employees. And it's proven time and time and time again, study after study, that a happier workforce equals a more productive workforce. However you need to do that, whether it's allowing work from home, whether it's a great appreciation program, whatever the case may be, a happier workforce just lends itself to a more productive workforce. And if you extrapolate all of that out, that then just naturally provides for better products and services, a more efficient workplace, efficient manufacturing, whatever the case may be. Now you have a happier client base, which all, where I'm going with this, leads to a healthier bottom line. Healthier, happier employee, more efficient processes, happier client, healthier bottom line.
I love how you articulate that, and I think one of the things that I kind of gravitated towards in your LinkedIn bio was how one of your mantras is destroyer of dysfunction, pursuer of positivity, and I,
Yeah.
and I, and I really connect to that, and I think it's important to talk about dysfunction in the workplace. A lot of people don't talk about this. A lot of people, it doesn't get exposed. It's something that just goes on, and people sort of accept it and realize that, well, this is struggle, and that I need to accept this if I want to be present here and to frankly have a job. And I think that ultimately, to your earlier point, that just affects happiness, it affects productivity, and ultimately,
Yeah.
bottom line. What are some of the things that you're seeing in terms of, might I call it, corporate dysfunction or interpersonal dysfunction? What are you seeing that some of the biggest problems are that need to be solved right now, and how, frankly, how do we solve them?
Well, I think the biggest problem is people don't have or feel they have avenues to speak up. If they see an issue that they might be having in the workplace, whether they feel bullied by another employee, a colleague, um, if a manager isn't listening appropriately, or giving them um, time to express ideas, suggestions for improvement within the workplace, that's a real problem. And a lot of that just kind of boils down to appropriate leadership, effective leadership,
Right.
Respecting the needs and the value that employees offer.
Right.
Right. So when I look at a business environment, I'm looking top down, right? What is the existing leadership structure look like? How are the employees then treated within that structure? Because that is how it will manifest itself in the overall culture of the business. And if the culture overall is dysfunctional, nothing else really matters.
And when you talk about some of these things where a leader might not be empowering someone, a leader might be micromanaging someone, even to the extent of bullying, which might come from a hierarchical situation where someone feels like they are entitled to bully. What do you think if you peel the onion back, what do you think the core essence of those emotions are?
For the one being bullied or the bullier?
For the bullier.
I just think, well, there's two different. I think there's two different ways to look at it. There's the leader who's been there forever, and maybe they have a sense of entitlement. They have a sense of I've been here forever. You need to respect me. Versus somebody who's maybe new to leadership. They just, and a lot of times, and this is no excuse by any means, but potentially they've never been taught the correct way to lead appropriately. They just, maybe they didn't have the correct mentor throughout their professional career up to that point. They've just never been that lucky to have somebody in their lives to pull them aside and say, hey, what you did in there with your team, A, that was really great, or B, that was really horrible. I can't believe you said that out loud, right? So that's where I'd like to come in and be that person to grab them by the hand and just guide and mentor, and say, this is what I've experienced throughout my career, both the good and the bad. This is the right way to do it, and this is clearly the wrong way to do it. But those feelings, those sentiments of, I'm the king of the castle, you must do what I tell you to do. Those are real. People actually feel that way. And those are the typical, stereotypical toxic leaders that we talk about so very often. And those are the ones that are so hard to remove from their positions, so hard to get out of the company. But it's such a problem. It's such a problem.
It is. And what, I remember going through this thing where everyone there was always the books that we need to read, on leadership, right? There's like probably 5 go-to books. And I feel like all those books, all the best-selling books that we kind of know about them, 50% or 60% of those books have now, they're not very relevant anymore, And because I feel like the climate has changed so much.
Yeah.
Now, not to say that, there are some constructs that will never change, but there are some that will, and that evolution process is, I think, what we're going through right now. So I personally would love to, see a reboot on a lot of texts that we know about. What is your take on that? The new face of guidance.
I love it. I think there's been a true paradigm shift. It's slow, but it's real. And I think it's starting to catch on, like that old guard that I mentioned, the old fuddy-duddy sitting in the corner office, with the buttoned up shirt and the tie, and this is my place, and you won't, I call them the table pounders.
The table what?
The table pounders. This is
oh, yeah.
it's my way or the highway.
The buck stops here.
Yeah.
It's that grenade on the desk, like,
Yeah.
what is it?
Right. I think that's starting to shift a little bit as some of the newer generation folks who understand, the empathy, the leading through empathy, leading through emotional intelligence, leading through self-awareness. It's leading through relevancy and empathy, having been there and guiding them through the process through relevant experience is huge, in my opinion. And I think that's the paradigm shift that we're now seeing, and just letting go and trusting your employees. It's like the old Steve Jobs quote of, hire the best and get out of the way, right?
Yeah.
That's so real. That's so true. It doesn't make any sense to stand over somebody's shoulder and babysit them all day. It just, get out of the way. If you don't trust them, why'd you hire them in the first place? Which lends itself back to the whole working from home thing. If you don't trust them to work wherever they want, why did you hire them in the first place? So, hire the best possible talent you can get your hands on, and let them do their thing. And I think the new leadership today truly understands that. We're not there yet. We have a long way to go. I mean, for somebody like me who wants to consult and advise leaders on how to do that appropriately, there's plenty of job security out there. Because I think it can be learned, but I say this tongue in cheek, but to a certain extent, it's a personality disorder, right? It's like people love power and controlling others. But there's a way to lead and get the most out of people, get the most, you can see potential in somebody and get the most out of them the right way, if that makes sense.
But I think that there's a certain vulnerability that has to happen in order for that to take place. For someone to say, you know what, I'm gonna put my ideas aside, I'm gonna put maybe my ego aside, and I'm gonna empower someone. And the hardest part, I think, is to support when maybe things don't go the way that we all wanted them to go, which definitely in marketing and sales and experimentation, it's a series of failures that ultimately lead to some few successes.
Right.
How can you guide people to let go of themselves? There's this David Gray song that I always think about, which is like go. He talks about this idea of letting go of yourself, letting go of your mind, and letting go of yourself. And what is that? It's fear. It's the ego. It's bad habits.
Yeah.
So how can you provide guidance on that? Because that's probably one of the hardest things, I think, especially for people that are seasoned.
Yeah, for sure.
Slamming the desk for 20 years.
It's teaching somebody how to trust, which isn't
trust.
Yeah, it's not easy. But if they truly understand that caring for the business, and if they've been there a while, obviously they do, but you have to strip away all the garbage and get down to the root issue, right? Do they want to see the business succeed? Do they want to be a part of that? And do they understand that change has to be part of that, and change in themselves has to be part of that too, right? If they've gotten to a very successful point in their careers and their lives, I truly believe there's something in them that will understand that. They're intelligent. They've gotten there for a reason. So they at the root of it, they will understand to a certain extent that maybe they have to change as well. So if you can teach somebody how to trust in the people around them, then you can do that. I think a big part of that is just, sit in a room with your team of people, shut your mouth and just listen, right? Just listen. Get in a room for like an hour with everybody on your team and say, all right, folks, what do we got to do? And just make sure that there's no repercussions, there's no consequences. It's like the old idea, there's no stupid ideas, right? There's stupid questions, whatever. But that has to be, abundantly clear up front. And then make sure everybody understands that you're there strictly to listen, and that you trust that their ideas not only are going to be listened to, but actionable, right? I can't tell you how many times I've sat in a room doing gap analysis and SWOT analysis, and then in a year, nothing changed. Nothing. So does it make sense to sit in a room, waste all that time if nothing is actionable, right? So it's one thing to listen, which is great. We need more leaders to actively listen. But now you have to take it to the next level, right? It's like sending out an employee satisfaction survey, every 6 months to a year, and then watch it go into the shredder. What's the point, right? What's the point? So just getting through to leadership that, if you want real change, if you want your business to get to the next level, if you can get through to them the concept that, if you're not willing to do this, your 20 most successful competitors are, maybe that then will register through their brains that, I better get on the bus here.
You're right. Self-awareness, I think, is an important part of this. And I think self-awareness from an individual perspective, but also from a corporate perspective, to understand, we as an entity versus our competitors and what's out there in the workplace, but also as just individuals, and understanding what some of our weaknesses are, and then specifically sometimes why we can't trust. Because I think if you think about trust in terms of why people can't trust sometimes, it might be based on a number of things. It could be based on fear. It could be based on precedent. It could be based on, insecurity. It could be based on just straight ignorance.
Right.
But how can we become more self-aware?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Self-awareness, I think, is more of an innate personality trait. Some people, and this is just my opinion, I think some people are just naturally more self-aware than others. I mean, I consider myself almost too self-aware. I'm always self-analyzing myself, maybe to a detriment. I don't know. But it's helped me more than it's hindered. That I know for a fact. But you're right. Self-awareness is absolutely critical in any leadership position. Knowing, what your faults are, knowing where you have to improve. But, in a similar fashion to sitting in that room and listening, you have to be able to sit in a room and be open to constructive criticism. And then being able to then look in a mirror at yourself and say, you know what, I think they're right. And I think I can do something about that to improve myself for the common good, right? Because a lot of that just boils down to just being simply selfish, right? And if you can get over that, that is then the key. Make somebody understand that, what are you in this for, right? You work for this organization. you claim that it's about the clients and this, that, or the other, but at the end of the day, it's not about you, right? These people aren't here for you. You have to understand that it's bigger than you, right? You're in leadership for them. Your job as a leader is to create more leaders, right? That's your job. Your job is to lead the business, but lead the people in a way that they can become better people, better business people, better people for their clients, create better products, services, and they need somebody who can, like you said, kind of let go of control and guide them in a way to allow their imaginations to do that. And it's not easy, but it's certainly something that can be done.
And I think that confidence is such an important part of that, which I think is one of the hardest things to get. I'm reminded of how many leaders I have worked under or for where intimidation was such a big part of their process, of their leadership process and their leadership style, because the last thing that a leader with the lack of confidence wants to see is someone whom they are leading exceed them, outdo them,
right,
outshine them. And I love how you said that the goal of a leader is to make more leaders. And the best leaders, that's what they're always focused on. And they, the higher you go, the more humility you see, the more self-awareness you see, the more apologies you see, the more maybe listening, you see. But I feel like in that interim, people that haven't necessarily made it as leaders, quote unquote, per se, are still stuck in some of these things that you're talking about, like lack of empowerment, lack of confidence, more fear, lack of trust. It's like a leap of faith almost. What you're describing to me is almost like a leap of faith.
It can be. You just have to always come back to why you're doing what you're doing, right? Is it to lead the business? Is it to make more money? Is it to gain a title? Why are you doing what you're doing? You have to figure out your why. I mean, that's so critically important, because if it's just to, make an extra 20K a year or get that corner office, well, that's just stuff, right? Who cares? In 30 years, when you're, on your deathbed, whatever the case may be, that's gone, right? It's gone. Who gives a shit?
Right.
But what lasts are people's memories, how you made them feel. They're going to be talking about the person who helped them get to their goals. The stories that they're going to tell about, oh man, I had the greatest mentor I've ever had in my life. I'll never forget him or her, right? That should be the goal, right? That should be the goal of every leader, to be the story that's told about them 20 years down the road. And I'll tell you one suggestion that I want everybody to do if they ever find themselves in a leadership position, if they're new, whatever the case may be. This is something that I did that worked, and and I'll always do it if I ever find myself in this situation. I was new to a leadership role. The very first thing I did, I scheduled one-on-one meetings with every single person on my team. Okay. One-on-ones. And we just sat and we talked. Nothing pre-planned. We just talked. I wanted to get to know every single person professionally, a little bit personally, nothing, crazy. I don't care if you're a Sagittarius or, whatever. But just, what makes you, what motivates you? What are your professional goals? And then what can I do to help you get there? Right? That should be the key. What do I need to do as the leader of this to get you to that next level or where you want to be in your life?
Mm-hmm.
And I did that with every single person. And what that did was not only help me help them, but it established trust, right? I wasn't just some Joe Schmo that came through the door. Oh, here's our new boss, right? It told them and helped them understand that I was here to build the business, grow the business, but I understood that they were the cogs to make it happen. I understood that it wouldn't happen without them, right? So we were a team at that point. So it just did so much. So anybody who sees this, do it. It's worth it. It builds trust. It builds teamwork. It gives everybody that empowerment that we talk about. I can't encourage everybody enough to do that.
Well, what I love about this idea is it's this idea of how can I support you and how can I support our unified goals? And specifically, the leader might say, what are the things that I can improve as the leader? Like, what are you missing? What do you need? I mean, great. We all want more growth. We all want more revenue, more engagement, more better stuff, right?
Yeah.
But what is it that you're lacking in order to accomplish the mission? And by doing that, I feel like it's some level of self-awareness, some level of vulnerability, open-mindedness, to kind of put yourself out there and to not come at this in a situation where you're pointing a finger. Rather, you're saying, look, what is it that I can do or the organization can do?
Right, exactly.
One of the things that I always think about is this idea of a common mission, a common goal, and then how everyone can feel incentivized and aligned on this common goal. One of my favorite dysfunctions about a misunified goal is this idea of everyone is trying to accomplish different things. The marketing department is trying to get more leads. The sales department is trying to get more closes. The support department is trying to get more, high 5-star ratings. The technology department is trying to get, less bugs, more features. I think that one of the things that I think is we're going through right now is this paradigm shift of an alignment of all departments, all companies, all team members, so that we're all effectively going towards the same thing, which is, I think, one of your first things, which is happiness. It's client happiness.
Yeah.
And how would you suggest that companies can do a better job to align everyone, whether it's in a bonus situation or whether it's in a mission situation? How do we better align ourselves?
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it. Just defining the mission, right? Having a well-defined vision and mission statement for the business, I think, is key. And then making sure everybody truly understands what that means. I think most companies, I won't hesitate to guess a number or put a percentage to it, but most companies have a boilerplate vision and mission statements out in the lobby, framed, really nice, hung on the wall, and that's where it stays. Nobody ever talks about it. It looks good for clients who come in for a visit, looks good for candidates coming in for an interview, but it doesn't mean squat, right? Because nobody talks about it. Nobody even knows what it means. But that's where you can get it right? You have to talk about it all the time. If it's well defined and it actually means something to people, why are you going to work every day? I mean, you spend so much time at work. Think about it. 10, 12 hours every single day. And for what? What's the purpose? What's the goal? You need people who understand that, right? If it's you're working to find a cure for cancer, right? You're doing research at the hospital. There is a mission, right? Everybody understands that mission. But if you're making widgets, you know, well, are people just coming in for a paycheck? Maybe. But if there's more to it, if there's a leader who understands that maybe this widget is making some kid happy in some war-torn area of the country or the world, maybe that's the mission. Or maybe they're donating money to to some charity. Maybe that's the mission. But whatever it is, everybody has to rally around that vision and mission and the goal. And I think that's how you can bring people together like that.
Nice, man. Speaking of bringing people together, how can people learn about you?
Well, I'm incredibly active on LinkedIn. I'm on, virtually every day posting ideas, thoughts, suggestions for anybody looking to improve their leadership, their company culture, whatever the case may be. I love helping. My reward is, ultimately seeing others achieve their goals and get to where they want to be, professionally, personally, wherever the case may be. I also have a website, seeingitallconsulting.com. I also have a showcase page within LinkedIn, which outlines, what my goals are, who I am as a person, and what I enjoy doing. And
Nice,
here's
man.
one of my daughters.
Hello.
That's hello.
Hello. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Oh,
Really
thank you,
appreciate it,
Ruben.
Ryan.
Oh, no, I thank you very much. I really enjoyed my time, and I appreciate you making time for me. It was a blast.
Likewise, Ryan. See you on LinkedIn.
Okay, thank you very much.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.